Hello and welcome to another Touchy Gooners podcast. It's your boy Dankoogs on hosting duty today, and I'm joined by Seun, and Shabs will be joining us shortly. Seun, how you doing, man?
Yes, man, all good, all good. Still overdosing from that victory at the weekend, man. So, just trying to keep the good vibes going, bro. Just trying to keep it going.
Yeah, man. It's hopefully the arrest to that mini slump that we've had the past sort
Mm.
of couple of weeks or so. But what a way to win a game! I think that's probably the best way to win a game. If you handed me a script and said that we're going to get a winner from a Jorginho screamer, where it comes off the bar and bounces off of Emi Martinez's head and into the back of the net in the 93rd minute or 94th minute, boy, I'll be taking that. I'll be taking that, and I can see you got the fresh trim with the twists and that, yeah. So
Listen,
you,
if you're watching live, yeah, you're gonna see the fresh trim and the fresh retwist. So if you see me outside this weekend,
so
hopefully
you're gonna
Arsenal win again. Make sure you buy me a drink. Which I'm trying to toast up. So, so
you're gonna
yeah,
be enjoying it, man. You're gonna be enjoying
that's
it.
it.
So yeah, let's get into that game because there are a lot of talking points, from that game. I think let's start with the lineup. So obviously we saw Ben White come straight back into the side. And then Trossard starting as well, and Martinelli um, taking a seat on the bench for the first time this season. So, what were your thoughts on that lineup? And how are you expecting us to perform on the day?
Yeah, I was asking for a couple changes, just more for the fact that we firstly, that was our third game in 7 days. I was partly anticipating a bit of fatigue in certain legs. We had the Brentford game where we were trying to fight till the end to get the 3 points. We didn't get it. The City game, which we know the lads put a lot in, and unfortunately we didn't get the result. So I was just thinking, yeah, it might be one of those games where, especially Villa after a week off, will be fresh and ready to go at us. And as it turned out in the first half, they were. But yeah, I just wanted to see, even in sometimes when you're in a bit of poor form, change it up every now and then. So I didn't really have a problem with any of the changes, to be fair. So yeah, I was good with it.
Yeah. I think I'm the same. I think the worst thing as a fan is you don't want to see the manager sort of not being proactive in
Hmm.
changing things, especially when you're not in the best series of results. So I think we lost to Everton, drew with Brentford, lost to Man City, and I was just saying, quietly to myself, yeah, I think we're going to need to do something different in this game, and that came in the form of Trossard coming in for Martinelli, and I think the manager had sort of been clearly thinking about it because that was almost the first substitute that was made in those past three games. It was Martinelli off, Trossard on. I know Trossard started against Man City in the FA Cup, and that's his only start before the weekend. But clearly, to me, that substitution was something that the manager had been thinking about, and I was not surprised to see Trossard come in and start. And so, I think once the first half did start, Sean, you had been very conscious of the fact that, three games in a week for the first time in, I think, since the World Cup, right? Where we had three games in a week, and there was question marks around I guess the fitness of certain players. Eddie's been playing the most football that he's ever played in his career to date. Saka, yet another Premier League start for him. You look at the centre backs; they've started every single game so far. Ben White started the majority. Odegaard started the majority. Xhaka started every single game, etc., etc. And so, there's not been a lot of rotation in the legs of these guys so far this season. So fatigue was definitely something that I thought could be a factor in this game as well. And so when we now concede a goal after 6 minutes, you're basically fearing the worst. I think it's a bit of a complacent giveaway from Zinchenko. They're high in Villa's half. Matt Cash takes it, ball over the top to Ollie Watkins, who has Saliba 1v1, gets into the box, does a little step over, left foot, and it's in the bottom corner, and I don't know where Ollie Watkins found that finish because normally his finishing is quite poor. So the thing is, I was not too worried as he stood up Saliba 1v1, because I was just like, yeah, what's this guy going to do kind of thing. And lo and behold, this is basically the best finish that you can imagine off his left peg, which was, yeah, very surprising. And, you know, did you think that Saliba could have done better there defending that?
Yeah, I felt like he allowed him time to come and turn at him. I just felt like the moment that ball was played over, he should have got tight to him, personally. And I think there was an example of that in the second half where he did get tight and Watkins wasn't able to get away. So it was just a case of learning. I just thought it was, at times at the moment, just during this negative run of form, it's just felt like it's been very easy to score against us. Like we haven't made people work really hard to score goals. And again, I think it was Leroy who made this point in the chat. A lot of the errors we've been making, or a lot of the goals we've been conceding, they're not down to structural errors, or they're just individual mistakes, like a lot of poor giveaways. So yeah, I just think we could have done better, but obviously it's a learning point to go forward. So hopefully we improve on that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think, the last few games, especially, you look at Man City and this Aston Villa game, you're saying, like, why are we conceding such soft goals? Because we're having to really work hard to score our goals, struggling to create chances in the last few games, and then really and truly just gifting the opposition easy ways back into the game. You think back to United, where Rashford scores an amazing goal, to be fair to him. The first one, Saka has then decided you're put the team on our back, put us 2-1 up. And then it's an error now to allow United back into the game. And then we have to do it in the last minute. And I feel it was kind of similar this game with Villa, where personally, I don't think Villa are a very good side. I think they're quite average. There are worse teams than them, 100%. Under Emery, they've looked decent, but this is a team that we really should be dispatching. And when we went 1-0 down, I was very disappointed, because that's not the reaction that you want to see after a bad week. So I'm glad the guys did react slightly in the second half, and we'll get on to the second half. But I think there are a few more talking points from the first half, right? So welcome, Shabs. We're just discussing the first goal. And on the first goal, Zinchenko, I think he's the major player at fault here. And I think he had a bit of a ropey first half, which I think followed up a bit of a shaky second half against Man City as well, where I think there's some question marks about his emotional state a little bit. He seems like a very emotional character. And one of the things that I wouldn't say concerned me, but one of the things that I've noticed a little bit in these past couple of games is that I do appreciate that he cares. I appreciate that he really wants to win. But then, when I'm seeing him, blaze balls over the bar with attempted crossings where the cross isn't really on, obviously seeing him lose the ball in what I would call dangerous positions where we don't really have the cover back. And I guess in this game he does get his goal, but taking sort of pot shots as well where the shots aren't really on. So what do you make of his performances over the past few weeks, and then I guess in the first half against Aston Villa? Shabs?
Yeah, to be fair, I was on last week, and this was just in the wake of us playing City, and I was critical about him, and I highlighted again some issues that I was starting to see in his game, especially the defensive side of things. I felt like he was guilty. He was ball watching at times. Wasn't as alert, and started to play a little bit of hero ball as well in terms of shooting. And we've had some interesting dialogue about it, actually. We've had some interesting discourse about it in the group chat as well. Some interesting discourse about it online. I have no doubt that sometimes you can create things from shots, other opportunities, other chances emerge from taking shots. But my real issue is when players are forcing the shots. So he's turning into them low percentage chances, shooting from just here, there, and everywhere, and the shot's really not on, or the shot's going over the bar, and we're just turning over possession. And I think it just goes against the momentum of the team, and whatnot. And that's more kind of what I take issue with. Now, you obviously have to be careful and balanced and proportionate about it. I don't want people to interpret anything that I'm saying as I don't like shots. I don't like shots being taken or anything like that. That's not the case. And obviously he scored his goal from a shot outside the box, which is fantastic. But yeah, I have seen some issues. I have seen some gaps. I've seen some flaws defensively with him. And I've seen some things on the offensive as well, where I feel like he's forcing things at times. And yeah, I want different, really.
Yeah, fair enough, man. And so, I think the second Aston Villa goal as well, for me, just seemed a bit too easy. I think Emi Martinez gathers in their box, distributes it out to Kamara, who can just turn, plays the ball out to the left. A run in behind from the left back, I think Alex Moreno, easily past Ben White, across along the floor, through Xhaka's legs, drops at the feet of Coutinho. It's in the back of the net, and I almost couldn't believe what I was watching, because there were certain moments there where you're just thinking, all right, someone's going to do something here. Someone's going to stop it. Someone's going to stop this pass. Someone's going to intercept. Someone's going to clear it, kind of thing. Someone's going to draw a foul. And the ball literally just went from one end of the pitch and it's in the back of the net. And that's something that we absolutely have not been used to seeing so far this season for Arsenal. And, I don't want to, I guess, bang on to Jorginho here, but I did feel that he was a big factor in that goal that we conceded. Obviously, one of the big plus points of us this season is our ability to press the ball, to stop teams actually being able to progress play. We have a very set mid/deep block that we get into very quickly, so that whenever we lose the ball, opposition has the ball, we're able to contract, make the pitch very tight, very, very compact. And I just felt for that goal, we lost all of our compactness, we lost our shape, and we weren't really able to engage at any point with the person on the ball. And I did think that Jorginho was a big factor in that. And I think looking at the statistics from this game, we do know that he likes to play on the front foot, etc. But I think he only made 3 ball recoveries in this entire match. And if you compare that to someone like Thomas Partey, he's normally in, the high 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s in terms of ball recoveries, double figures all the time. So, just watching the two of them play in that 6th position, Seun, did you think that we missed Partey at times in that first half?
I think we'll always miss Partey, because just fundamentally, I think he's a more rounded individual than Jorginho. Funnily enough, I saw one of the stats was that Jorginho made more progressive passes in this match than Partey hasn't in a game all season. So, Jorginho does bring a lot of quality on the ball, but there's just a base level of athleticism that he has that Jorginho doesn't. So I do think we missed that, and just looking at the second goal as a whole, I think, you could just hold the whole team culpable. Arteta talks about, like, when I lose a duel, I'm upset, bruv. And, there was no single duel won, bruv. They just played through us from front to back, and there wasn't a challenge. And, normally one of the good things and what's been a great thing about us this season is that the distances in between the lines are very minimal, very compact. So it's very hard to play through Arsenal. But it was, like you said, pass from the goalkeeper into Kamara, then a pass from Kamara into, Moreno, and there was just the distances were so big, like we didn't seem compact. We weren't, so it was just it was very sloppy. And I know Arteta must have grilled them at half time for that. Do you know what I mean? Because what we saw in the second half wasn't anywhere close to that. They didn't have a sniff, because we were just so much more aggressive, front-footed and dominant in the way we played. So yeah, it is what it is. Hopefully it was just a one-off rather than anything we've seen this season, which is by and large been really, really good. So yeah, it was a poor go all round to concede, probably a lot of culpable people, and it's something we need to make sure we brush up on, and make sure it's not a feature for the last 15 or so games this season, man.
Yeah, definitely. Shabs, anything you want to add on the whole sort of Jorginho / Partey dynamic?
Um, just following on from the trend really of what Sean said about the goal in and of itself. I doubt that we'll see Arsenal concede a goal like that in that same fashion again this season. I do genuinely. It was very poor, but I do genuinely believe it is an exception. Um, to the rule. I heard, but I'm not entirely sure how accurate this is. But I heard that Saka was also injured. He also felt some pain, so he was non-existent in that press. Bear in mind, it didn't start with him, but yeah, I think there was lots unfolding that players on the pitch were kind of reacting to. We saw as the ball moved over to our right hand side, Erdegaard was kind of stuck in between two minds. He didn't know whether to kind of stay with his man or go and close down the ball. He gets caught in limbo. He gets bypassed, and Ben White's got an overload. It just all unfolded and melted from there. But yeah, there was something that was undermined, and I can't say solely because Saka was injured, because it was just poor from start to finish. But yeah, it's very uncharacteristic of Arsenal, and I doubt we'll see us concede a goal in that same fashion again anytime soon, really. And then as far as the Jorginho Partey dynamic, yeah, man, I think it's very clear. I think Jorginho had a very good game for us. Actually, I think he played well. I think he has played well in the games that he has. For us, really. And I think this is what you want from an understudy. He's a very reliable understudy, actually. And I think anyone who had some doubts about him when we did sign him in January, some of those doubts should be alleviated by the performances that he's given us so far. But there is a deficit. He's not a like-for-like replacement. There are very few players out there who are like-for-like replacements. And I suppose he gives us something when he's in possession, but when he's out of possession, there is a gap. There's a big variance between Partey and the mobility and the dynamism and the athleticism and the physique and the stature as there is with Jorginho. So their expectations can't be the same. Their expectations really can't be the same. I don't think it's fair to place the same expectation on Jorginho. That said, I think he did. I've got some numbers up. He won 4 out of 11 duels on the ground, so it's not fantastic. It's 36%, but he won 4 out of 11. He won 1 aerial duel out of 1, so it's 100% of his aerial duels. He's not at all. He's not a player that you'd expect to win aerial duels in the game. I need to contextualize it and actually see what that aerial duel was, because I can't recall it in my mind. It could have been nothing. He could have been jumping up against a Kamara or a Luiz or another vertically challenged individual. I don't know, but yeah, he won 1 out of 1 aerial duel. He was fouled once. He committed 2 fouls. He had 91 touches of the ball, I think. So when he was in possession, so defensively it wasn't great. Sorry, he won 1 out of 3 tackles. That's 33%. He made 3 recoveries. And the ball got carried past him on 2 occasions. So defensively, it was a kind of meh performance. It left a lot to be desired. But in possession, he was amazing. And I suppose as we go on to talk about the second half and his second half performance, we can analyze the numbers more. But there was a big variance as well in what he gave us in possession and in attack and when he was on the ball, as to what he wasn't able to do for us and offer for us out of possession when he was off the ball. I think that's just the way we have to look at it with him, really.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. And yeah, I do think there is the other half of his game that we have, so we're not just going to be negative on Jorginho, because obviously he had a big say in us winning this game, not just the goal that he scored, but I think his progressive play and just his passing and creativity with his passing, I thought was very good in that second half especially. But before we get into the second half, we did get a goal back before Villa scored, and I do have to spend some time talking about that boy Bukayo Saka, right? 2 things to talk about here for me. Obviously, one is, you know, this kid is unbelievable. You know, he is truly unbelievable. The strike that he does to equalize is astounding. You know, on a half volley, almost roof of the net. You know, first time quality finish to equalize. And I think Seun, it was you that put the stat in the group, or it might have been German, where it says all 10 of Saka's goals this season, so 9 in the league, 1 in the Europa, have been equalizers or goals to put us one up. You know, so this guy is coming in clutch. He's not scoring the third goal in a 3-0 battery, and he's not scoring the 5th goal in a 5-0 or anything like that. He is changing results with his output, and he's really winning us points, you know, and ensuring that we're climbing the table. I personally, I'm not going to say it's a carry job, because I think there are a lot of players who are playing very well. But for me, I think Saka has been probably the most consistent performer of all of our attackers, just in terms of overall performances. And then with the output that we're seeing now, you know, it's second to none, really. I think he's one of the informed players in the division, and one of the best forwards in the division as well, right? So, you know, I'm looking at this guy and I'm just saying, like, he is exceeding all of my expectations. And I've had very high expectations of this kid for a while. And so, you know, I'm just going to open the floor now for you, Shabs and Seun, to give your and your praise and heap your praise up onto Saka. Oh, my doorbell's going as well, so good timing there.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, what can
Yeah.
we say about the kid that we haven't already said before? Eh?
Do you know what I mean? I just feel like you're just you can't eulogize over the kid enough, man. I think I put the stat in. It was 4 equalizers and 6 to put us ahead so far this season. That's his return in terms of goals. So yeah, it's either the equalizing goal or the goal to put us ahead that he's notched this season, man. So the kid is just, you know, brazy. And like I said, we were pulling Lewis up on this in the group chat, in terms of, you know, every time Lewis doubts him, or every time he says, you know, he's not doing X or Y, he downloads the pack, and the next week he's doing X or Y. Like, the latest criticism Lewis was having was that he can't strike a ball cleanly. And look at, you know, goal he scored against United, crashed. Goal he scored against Villa, crashed. So yeah, man,
There's others as well. There's others that you could add to that. We're just being lazy with it. But there's other clean strikes. Definitely.
Trust me, once he's closing in now, once he's closing in on that, perfecting that Robben cutting and crash, boy, it's over.
You know what it is? Like, we was questioning it on a couple guys, innit? Because, like, we had to pull certain man up on their doubts early doors, innit? And you know what? The noble guys are saying, you know what? I was wrong, innit? And I respect that. There's man still pretending like, yeah, but in the early days, we wasn't seeing it and blah, 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 blah. When man was judging him when he hadn't even played 10 league games for the club. And when you contextualize how he was performing, it wasn't like the team was playing really well at the time where he broke into the team, and he wasn't kind of meeting standards or meeting requirements. It was a struggling team, and so he wasn't standing out. He started to stand out, and then we started to see game intelligence from him, and then we started to see variation from him, and then we started to see production from him, and now we started to see decisiveness from him. You know what I mean? And it's about when that production comes as well. He's scoring important goals in important moments in a very important campaign for us. You know what I mean? So that's it. You know what? Him going to him missing the penalty for England as well a couple years ago, that done something to him. You know, I think he must have genuinely felt pain, and he said, you know what? I never want to feel this pain again. And he's just rolls it. And every single time he rises it, yeah. And what it is with Saka, with the because we haven't even spoken about the emotional side. I haven't even spoken about the emotional roller coaster of Saturday's game, really. But there were times, especially in the first half, where we just looked really poor. But I looked at him and thought, you know what? If there's a way out of this, if there's one player in this whole side who I think can just make something happen for us. Yeah, who could just get us out of this. It's Saka, you know. It's Saka, and we can see it, and other teams know it as well. Other teams know it. The ops know it because they're always targeting him with kind of cheap, shitty comparisons. Are like teams that we face, they know it because you can see the way that they treat him in terms of the number of fouls. You know, he's not getting the protection, and people are starting to talk about that too now because he's getting fouled like crazy.
That's
I mean,
the
the mark of
second point.
respect, man.
That's
It's
the
fair
second
and
point
respect.
that I was going to make, Shabs.
Yeah.
Discussion point.
Yeah, man, it's fair and respect, and he's the one guy in the whole team where I just say, you know what, like he can get he's not the only one that can get us out of a rut, but when the chips are down, I think actually this stuff doesn't really affect him. I just have supreme confidence in his abilities as a football player that he can make something happen for us just a moment. And yeah, man, like what he's doing is phenomenal because he's really got no right to be leading and being one of the mainstays of our attack in the way that he is. This is Arsenal Football Club, but he's shown that he belongs, and like I said, he's doing it with his production and his performances. He's not just getting assists. He's not just getting goals and not playing well. He's playing well. Like the bottom line for him is that he's playing well, he's performing well, and then he's adding goals on top of the good performances. He's adding assists on top of the good performances. He's having decisive moments on top of all of that. So, yeah, man, this boy's gone all the way to the top. And Dankoogs, you was right, man. He was not that I've never doubted him. I've always been a believer of Saka from the get-go. But you was right in terms of your shout top 5, and actually maybe you was a bit reserved. Maybe you was a bit cautious because you didn't want to go that big that soon. Pause. But yeah, man, we right now we can talk crazy on anyone in relation to Saka because he's one of the best attacking players in the league without a shadow of a doubt. That's it. Anyone says otherwise, he's chatting shit. They're a hater. Like it's facts.
100%, man. And I think you did touch on an important point there around sort of how opposition are now starting to have to deal with him. Right? They're trying to kick him out of the game almost, and he's not getting that protection. We have seen a couple of articles around on this topic, but for me, the interesting thing about this discussion is that you look around the league, and I think there are some players who probably actually look for the fouls more than what Saka does. Because for me, I don't actually think Saka goes into these, I guess, challenges looking for free kicks. I think he's trying to beat his man. He's trying to make something happen, and the free kick is just the outcome of the result of his dribble, etc. Whereas you look at someone like Jack Grealish, who I think runs with the intention of winning the foul. Do you get what I mean? Someone like Zaha, I think they play for the free kick rather than play to beat the man. And for me, it's strange because the players who I think play for the free kick get the free kicks, and the guys who try and stay on their feet but get kicked to bits don't get the free kick. And in this game, you see it's a rake down Saka's left Achilles, and his shoe comes off. Do you know what I mean? And we didn't even get a free kick for that. It doesn't get looked at. Do you know what I mean? And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, this is not right. Because not only is this guy a star for Arsenal, he's a star for the national team. He went to the World Cup, and you saw it there where there's not necessarily the same biases, and you saw that the opposition, they were still having to kick him out of the game. Look at England, France. How many fouls did Saka have? Did Saka buy? Saka win? And you'd think that these guys would watch this and say, you know what? Maybe we do need to start protecting this guy because he's not getting the rub of the green when he should, kind of thing. And I don't want to do this whole victim mentality because I do think that the best players do have to face things like this, But I think when it comes to the hard tackles, the dangerous ones, the ones where the player just has no intention of getting the ball, I do think referees need to be better at clamping it out the game because otherwise we're going to end up with hopefully not with Saka, but someone else might end up with a bad injury because of this. You know, Saka had to get heavy strapping on his leg to continue that game. Shabs already alluded to it. You know, wasn't able to run to his normal full speed because of that injury during that Villa game. And you know, you hope you don't end up with a guy coming through with a broken ankle or something like that. You know, because the referees are allowing hard and unnecessary challenges. So you know, anything that you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think we're overreacting either because we've seen it before. We've got reference points. Yeah, all right. The standard of refereeing in the Prem at the time was even worse, and the culture, in some sections of English football culture applaud the Stokes of this world who go in with the hard tackles and that, but. Yeah, for me, the hard tackles is one thing, but it's just the double standards as well, because you look at how the rotational and systematic fouling of Saka in the Villa game, but he committed one foul and got a yellow card for it, So I felt like, actually, what's going on? Like, there's a lack of consistency here. It's very similar with the Man City game where Bernardo Silva fouled him and only got booked on the fourth instance of fouling the same player. And it's like, this was deliberate fouling. This was unnecessary roughness. It was wild to me. But, if you... It's the messaging that refs are giving by not taking that decisive action soon enough. And I know sometimes refs are like, yeah, but we don't want to make a booking too early. We don't want to spoil the game. To me, that's bullshit, man. If you commit a dangerous act or offense early on in the game, in the first minute and the second minute, it's a dangerous act and offense. You get a yellow card. Like, you can't be refereeing off of emotion. Is you uphold the letter of the law or you don't. That's it. You have a degree of consistency, and I just can't see that consistency is being applied when it comes to Saka and beyond Saka as well, when it comes to some of our players being fouled. So we can say, yeah, we don't want this. We don't want to create or generate this victim mentality. We don't, but we're calling what we see. This is what's happening in front of us, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Like, it's just not. It's not okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree, man. 100% agree. And I think, now we go on to the second half, and this really was a game of two halves, I think, for Arsenal, right? So, in the first half, we had 67% possession, only generated 2 shots, 2 on target. Villa had 4 shots, 2 on target, their 2 goals. And then we had XG. I'm going off SofaScore. I've seen some different numbers here, but XG total was 0.1 for Arsenal, right, of those 2 shots. And so then in the second half, by contrast, we had 1% less possession, 66% possession, but we took 18 shots, 3 on target, and created XG of 3.18, right? So, that for one half of football, that is an absolute crashing. It's an annihilation. I think there's 5 big chances that we had in that half. We actually missed 4 of them as well, which is incredible. And I think, we really had the fire in us, I think, for that second half. And, so looking at this game where we're 2-1 down now, going into halftime, off the back of 3 games without a win, 2 losses in the last 3 losses in the last 4, all competitions. What do you think Arteta said to these guys at halftime, Sean?
Bruv, this guy gave them a generational flogging, bruv, at halftime, because the way these men came out in the second half here, I said, hey, brother.
I think they came out early as well.
Yeah, I said, if you man don't pattern up, yeah. So whatever he said at halftime, well, he came out at the end of the game. He just said, listen, you man have got to do the basics properly, and we've got to be more aggressive out of possession. And I don't think it was anything complex. It's just standard stuff in it. Like, it felt to me more like it wasn't even changing anything from a structural coaching perspective. It was just getting into their heads, like, more mentally. It was like, listen, you man, the funk we've been in the last 3 odd games, yeah, it's time to snap out of it. Because that's the way they were aggressive and just played. Like, I know people will talk about the the 2 chances Villa had, you know, in the second, because it was crazy to me. People saying, "Oh, Arsenal got lucky." Arsenal didn't get lucky in this game. Obviously, we won the game late on, but they had two shots on goal in that second half, bro. They got crashed on pretty much that whole second half. We attacked with like 9 players in their half, bro. So that pretty much the 2 times they did get out, it was literally just left them like with 1v1 opportunities, bro. But they got patterned. Like the amount of chances we created in that second half was insane. Like you said, 5 big chances missed is insane. Arsenal had enough chances to win 2 games in that second half alone. Do you know what I mean? So for you to say that we generated over 3 XG in one half of football is insane. That must be probably like our best second half performance of the season, like in any game. And obviously, it didn't seem it like at the time, you know, when we were missing chance after chance after chance in the group chat, we were like, "Oh, bro, like this is just slipping away from us now." Do you know what I mean? But you know, I think just by the sheer volume of what we were doing in that second half, they were going to crash eventually. And to be fair, they could have crashed earlier if it wasn't for poor finishing to us. You know what I mean? So we absolutely just killed them from all angles. And you know, some of the people we were saying that were maybe a bit sloppy in the first half, like Zinchenko or Jorginho, you know, they were a big part of the reason we absolutely dominated that second half. You know, the amount of touches, you know, you're getting towards the point now where guys like Jorginho and Zinchenko are having 90 touches, you know, close to 100 touches per game, which is in itself outrageous. It just shows that level of dominance that teams are struggling to get out. Teams are, you know, struggling with the level of pressure that's being put on them. Any team would. Eventually, you're going to wilt when you're suffocated that much. Do you know what I mean? It's going to come, and you know, like I said, it should have come earlier, but you know, better late than never, man. So, and it was, you know, I don't know if I can be doing that for the whole running. That sort of winning in that sort of circumstance, my heart can't take that, bro. But you know, once or twice, cool, I can have it. And you know, I was on cloud 9 with the way we won this game, bro. Amazing.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. And you know, I think second half, I don't know where you watched the game. I was watching it on my ones in the living room. You know, my wife, she was sat on the sofa in the first half. When we conceded, I said, you know what, I'm gonna need you to go upstairs. This isn't a game where, you know, we can do small chit chats, because anything that you say right now is gonna be.
I'm not listening, bro.
I'm focused, man. Just trying to holler at me, man. I'm focused. Yo,
honestly,
watching it like this.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Shabs, she came into the room. She said, "Oh, when this is done," and I was like, I looked at her and I said, "Nah, not now. Honestly, not now. Not now. I need you to cut from here, because you're telling me we need to go to the skip. We need to go break down this, that, and other, some DIY. Nah, my head can't hear this right now. You know. So, boy, the fact that when we scored the third, I was screaming. You know, I was ran up and down the living room. And she said, you're embarrassing. Neighbors are gonna hear this, that, and the other. Are you not embarrassed? I was like, nah, of course not. If they want to come join me,
I don't care.
If they want to come join me, I'll shout louder. You know, it's crazy. So Seun, I'm 100% with you on the way to win the game. You know, elation, the feelings at the end is pure joy. You know, pure joy. So, you know, Shabs, I think there were a few performers that rose it in the second half, and we can get into them. We spoke on Zinchenko in the first half, and we had some criticisms of him, but then I think in the second half he really came into his own. Was really heavily involved in, you know, us creating overloads all over the pitch. He spent a lot of time drifting over to the right side to link up with Odegaard, Saka, and Nketiah, and I think that right side pod really sort of won us this game, you know, with Jorginho included in that as well. So I think Odegaard in the second half created something like 7 chances, which, you know, for a game, a whole game is fantastic, but in one half I think is stellar. So yeah, let's talk about Zinchenko and his performances. He scored his first Premier League goal for Man City and for Arsenal in this game with a great strike.
Yeah, he deserves his goal. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's got a goal. You know, again, it came from the shot. He took a shot. I think he took his strike really well. And yeah, that's another goal that we've got this season outside of the box. So again, there's a bit of a pattern there, and you can see that, and that's something that we've definitely improved on. Also, in terms of rotation, in terms of the different players that we've been able to get on the score sheet this season, it's definitely a goals by committee season. So yeah, happy about that for him. Second half performance definitely much improved, a lot closer to what we're used to seeing from him, what we've become accustomed to seeing from him. And yeah, I think he might have been one of the players that Arteta threatened to chin in the dressing room at halftime, because the second half performance was a stark contrast, definitely a stark contrast. What I liked is that with him, with Jorginho, the level of control, and Ødegaard as well, the level of control, and it's not new because we've seen this with Partey, and I'm not here to kind of wax lyrical or whatnot, but I think that trio on Saturday, definitely the level of control, the amount of dominance that we had, it just was so reassuring. It's reassuring when you're watching games and you see that we're in control. It's not nice having to do it when you're having to chase games or get a goal, but generally speaking, it's nice. It has been nice for me watching this Arsenal side and feeling assured, feeling that actually we're not going to do stupid stuff, that we look very comfortable in possession, that we're progressing the play in a meaningful way. But yeah, for me, Zinchenko's second half, he turned it round. I think he had like 11 passes into the final third again. So that's something about progressive passes for him as well. Between him, Jorginho, and Ødegaard, yeah, man, the level of chance creation was brazy. And like Seun said, there was enough done in that second half to win a couple of games. And if you think about the fact that we've been struggling for goals more recently, or not been able to get more than one goal in the game, I think, there was definitely a turning point in the second half, but there was something about how Zinchenko played and performed in particular, alongside some of his counterparts, which allowed for us to exert that high level of pressure on them, that high level of control, that dominance, and ultimately create the chances that we needed to score. And there are games as well where it feels like you create these chances, you don't put them away, and you're gonna suffer or be punished for them. And there were very fine margins in this game as well. I don't want to get carried away. Ramsdale did save us, but definitely second half performance from Zinchenko was key in terms of being able to create and just help us to be so assured and accomplished in possession and do what it is that we done. Ultimately, we got the win. So yeah, man, fantastic for him, really. He also needed a good performance because again, last week I was talking about him and saying in recent weeks, I think his performance levels dipped a little bit. So he needed a good second half. And I think the momentum and that good feeling stays with him and carries on into our games this coming weekend as well. So good for him.
Yeah, fair play. Seun, anything you want to add on Zinchenko? Yeah, you're all good. Yeah, so Zinchenko has that strike, and then second half of Jorginho's performance was, I think, a fantastic, capped with a fantastic strike in off Emi Martinez's head to win us the match. And after that, I think Villa get a corner, and then Martinelli runs up the other end of the pitch from what I think is a very nice pass from Fabio Vieira into him, and then Martinelli celebrating before he's even scored, and it's 4-2. Which I think our play probably deserved. It's funny, one of the group chats, the TLF football group chat, German Dan said that Arteta coached a 5-2. Disu and others this was when it was still 2-2. And Disu and others were sort of trying to corn him. But then when the game ends 4-2, you know how us Touchy Gooners like to spin the block. We pulled up the keys that we were hearing from other parties, and people had to hold that, because I think the 4-2 result didn't even flatter us. That probably could have been 5, 6, 7, on the chances that we created in that. in that second half. So, you know, it feels good, I think, to be back to winning ways after a mini blip. And I think to win in that way can only do the lads a whole load of good and really boost them coming now into what is crunch time for the end of the season. You know, so there are some listeners' questions that I think we'll get into that will cover a few things from the game and then a few of the, I think, talking points from the few days since the game as well, right? So let me get them up. And so Shaggy P, big up Shaggy P. That's one of my guys. And he says, as fantastic as Gabriel has been this season, he is prone to getting emotional and losing his head in big matches. Should Arteta look at alternative partnerships in big away games coming up, like Anfield or St James's Park? Too often we lose big games by giving away gift goals and mistakes. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, yeah, Gabriel can get emotional, but you're saying, bro, we've lost one. How many big games we lost this season? 2, yeah? So we lost to Man United away and Man City at home. So I think that's a bit of a stretch because this wasn't apparent when we beat Tottenham home and away, when we beat Chelsea away, when we beat Liverpool at home. So I don't know, man. I think it's a bit mad. And even so, what centre back partnership are you? This ain't the time, bro. We haven't seen that Polish kid yet, bro. Give you all, bro. I'm not trying to chuck my man in. The business end of the season where we're trying to win a title, you want to throw a man to the wolves at Anfield. Listen, I know Liverpool are not in the best form at the moment, bro, but listen, you don't want to feed man to the wolves. So no, I'm not. Gabriel and Saliba have made a couple errors between them, but firstly, it's a young partnership. It's a 21 and a 24-year-old, so it's going to happen. 2, how many centre backs can play in that sort of high risk, high reward strategy game we're talking about? You know, look at what we talk about, what we did at Villa in the second half. All that was left back was them, man. You know, literally them guys sat on the halfway line. Everybody else was forward. How many centre backs in the league can literally do that? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, we talk about when we take out Saliba and we've got to put Holding in. Holding can't do that. Do you know what I mean? So what we're asking these 2 centre backs to do is very, very difficult. Do you know what I mean? So they have the level of aggressiveness in addition to the PMP, in addition to the technical level to do it. Now, of course, any centre back is going to be susceptible to an error every now and then. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for example, like the you know, we spoke about the first goal Saliba could have done better, but for every time Saliba's made that error, there's been another 9 times he snuffed out that chance. Do you know what I mean? So law of averages, it's going to happen like one time out of 10, man. So I think this is very like it's nitpicking, and even, you know, just a lot of what we've been doing lately, even though, you know, there've been stuff to criticize, it's still nitpicking because I just think, you know, the level of expectation we set in the first half of the season. Like if you think the first 19 games, so the first half of the season, we took 50 out of 57 points, bro. That is crazy. Like no one in their right mind would expect that if we replicated that second half of the season, that's going to be 100 points. Like it's insane. Like a dip for me, I always expected a dip at some point. I didn't know when it was going to come. Hopefully this has been the dip we've had. Do you know what I mean? So, and you know, fair play to both of you guys, because I remember even last season you said, you know, you both mentioned that when everyone was fit, we were trending on around being, you know, a 75-80 point team, sort of around that level. So, you know, and we've played above that level, you know, this season as well. So, you know, I think you can allow them when they have a couple off games. You know, we're trying to win the league with the youngest squad in the league. Do you know what I mean? So kids who have never been here before. So I think you can allow these guys, man, when they have off games every now and then, because the level they've been performing to generally has been extremely, extremely high this season.
Where I think we are 1 win away from our total wins in the, not last season, but the season before, where we only won, well, we won 18 games, came 8th with 61 points, right? So we're on 17 wins out of 23 so far already. So
that's what I'm saying. People nitpicking, yeah, you've got to look at it the whole, like what you're nitpicking at, cool. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely things we could have done better, but fam, none of you, man, imagined we were going to be here at the start of the season. So allow them.
This is a byproduct of our success, our progress. You know, these are
DJ Khaled.
These are
struggling with success.
Yeah, struggling with success. That's it. These are good problems to have. These are good debates. You know, because we weren't having these debates before. But yeah, I think it is nitpicking. I think that number one, like all defenders make mistakes. It doesn't matter what level you're at. All defenders make mistakes. Like you cannot be perfect every single time. Centre backs, you get exposed. Generally speaking, we've got a very good system in place. We've got a very good structure, and they are very good individuals. But they're young. Sometimes fatigue does set in, and when I say fatigue, I mean like it could be physical, it could be mental fatigue. Like I think the mistakes that Gabriel made against Man City, for example, was mental fatigue. Did he make any glaring mistakes in this game against Aston Villa? I
No, he didn't.
don't think. Yeah, I don't think so. And yeah, generally speaking, again, like caveat his performances and his individual errors, if you like, with like the team's performances as well. If we're playing well and he's just making like these head loss decisions for no reason under no duress, and it becomes a recurring theme, then that's something that you want to look at. If we're not playing well and he's making the mistakes as well, then you have to kind of question and consider, is it because we were under immense pressure, the team weren't playing well or something like that? But generally speaking, these moments are few and far between. So yeah, I don't think anyone should be getting too hung up on any mistakes that he makes. He's going to continue to make mistakes. He's still extremely young as a centre back. Saliba's going to continue to make mistakes. He's still extremely young as a centre back. Considering that this is their first full season together, these are doing amazing, and long may it continue. We need to protect them because we need them for our running. Absolutely, they're absolutely integral to what it is that to any success that we might have this season. And I'm not trying to see a change. Bear in mind that this is how it's worked so far all season. I'm not trying to see a change. No way, not now.
Yeah, 100%, and well said, you guys. So the next question is from Bogan_M5. He says, feels like we've been conceding a lot lately and now have the same amount of goals against as Chelsea. What do you think the issue is, or is there not an issue? Lots of teams have conceded more. So I just quickly went to check the table on this. And we have the second best defensive record in the league, right? So I think it's Newcastle. Yeah, it's Newcastle first with 15 goals against, and then it's us and Chelsea tied on 23 goals against, and then Man City on 24 goals against. And to put it into context, Newcastle have only scored 35 goals, Chelsea have only scored 23 goals, and then we've scored 51 goals. And City have scored 60. So, you know, our goal difference is very healthy on 28. Second best goal difference in the league as well. Newcastle are, plus 20, but, you know, they've not scored that many goals either. They've had a lot of draws. So, you know, again, I think this is under the same bucket, right? Like struggling with success. And to be honest, I do hear the point, because it seems like the goals that we concede have been very easy for the opposition, kind of thing, right? I think it's 10 goals conceded in our last 6 games. And I look at them, and that second Villa goal, probably the best goal that has been scored against us, bar Rashford, I think, where the opposition's actually had to do something, you know, well-constructed bit of play, that kind of thing. Otherwise, it's basically just errors, you know. So I do think it's a valid point to raise, where individual errors seem to be our main source of woe when it comes to conceding goals. Set pieces as well were an issue for 3 games, really. But, you know, I do think defensively we are pretty solid. You know, we are pretty solid. I think the past sort of month or so is more of a blip for me than something that is ongoing. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, just quickly for context, Chelsea have got a goal difference of 0. Oh yeah, they conceded the same number of goals as us, but they've scored 23 goals. Their goal difference is 0. You've already made the point about Newcastle. They conceded far less goals, 8 goals less, but again, that's about their structure and the way in which they're set up, and they don't score anywhere near enough goals. And I think this is a problem for Newcastle, and it may be their undoing later on this season, the business end of the season, because yeah, they can be rigid and robust, but they're not score. They can't score as much. We're defending well, and we're scoring goals. We're attacking well as well. We're controlling games. I'm not worried or fussed about any of this. We're at the top of the Premier League, 2 points clear of Man City, with a game in hand. Come on, man! Like we could again. I feel like it's nitpicking at our defense a little bit. I'm like, we genuinely, we can't say anymore that we have the best attack. I think we slowed down in terms of our goal scoring, but I'm more worried about our goal scoring, our lack of goals, than the goals that we're conceding. To be fair, so yeah, that's my that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, Sean, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think just on the overall point, like, you know, again, this is our first dip in form that we've had all season. You know, after 23 games, this is what we're complaining about. You know, it took till Feb for us to be having these discussions. So for me, that in itself is a good thing, man. It's not every team has had their struggles at some point, man. So be it. Hopefully this has been our period, and hopefully now we can push on again, man. So, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, fair play. Sam E_91, he says, I've seen people toying with the theory of ESR, Trossard, or Vieira in the left 8 to replace Xhaka, who has dropped off. Which one makes the most sense? When would we try it? As we can't afford any ill-advised experiments.
For me, it is Vieira. That's who I'm going to get that one to. And also just because I feel like him, and just the same way I feel like ESR and Saka have a really good synergy from when we were in the trenches. There's a little bit, when I watched the game back today, I also saw there was a couple literally just immediate clip balls over the top that Vieira hit to Martinelli, man. So I feel like in terms of there's the most to come from him still. Like, you know, I know a lot of people have been down on him. A lot of people are saying we've not seen enough. Like, and these can all be fair, you know, observations and stuff. But you know, even when you look, you know, when we did the numbers, when he had very little game time with Porto last season, his level of productivity for the amount of minutes he spends on the pitch is very, very high, man. So, you know, we've spoken about other people undergoing the Arteta refinement package. I think Vieira's undergoing it, but in a different sort of way, you know, in terms of how he's going to impact the game going forward, you know, just being more robust. But I think Cougs made this point before, you know, people are asking him to be more active. The role of that left 8 is more, you know, it is creative to an extent, but it's also about crashing the box, off the ball movement, some shots. And I think Vieira can do all of that. Do you know what I mean? So the only obviously downside we have with him is that obviously he's not going to win the duels and the second balls that probably Xhaka does off the ball. So we might have to mitigate that in a way. But I think Arteta trusts him, and we're going to slowly see that trust start to already in the last 3 games. Yeah. That Xhaka for Vieira sub has happened each time in the last 3 games. So that trust is already slowly starting to be built. And I think over the course of the next few months, you'll see his minutes start to, you know, go up and up and up. And, you know, as we spoke about, as teams start to adapt to us now, because we're in a situation recently now where teams don't even want to compete with Arsenal in midfield anymore. You know, before that was what the challenge was. Do you know what I mean? We had to battle in midfield to earn territory. But now, you know, and some of the struggles we've had in the last month isn't because, you know, we've been struggling to progress the ball. That's not the issue. Teams are literally just sitting in 2 banks of 4 on the edge of the area and just be like, all right, cool, break us down. So I just think it's the next stage of evolution. Now, don't get me wrong. And I think Shabs agreed with me in the group chat when we said there'll be games where we might need more physicality, duels, you know, when we're playing away to tough away games, maybe big 6 games. But if we're having games like the Villa game, the second half, where we're going to have 70% possession and teams are going to box themselves in, why would we? And bearing in mind, Xhaka is not having the 90 amount of touches that he used to because he's not deep. Xhaka's high up. So you might as well put Vieira there high up. Do you know what I mean? Because he has more ingenuity. He's going to be able to conjure something, a better action, whether that's a shot or a final pass. So, yeah, to answer the question, I think Vieira, and I think there's still a lot as well. And, you know, when people talk about chucking the Europa, I think Arteta won't chuck it for this very reason, because I was just doing the numbers today. Say everyone's fit, for example. Now we could potentially look at a lineup in the Europa of Turner in goal, Tierney left back, Kivior and Holding centre backs, Tomiyasu right back, Jorginho 6, Vieira left centre mid, ESR right centre mid, Trossard left wing, Nelson right wing, Eddie up front. Considering I've just rotated the whole 11, that's not that bad, is it? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, maybe if we get to the semis, we might have to look at how maybe changing one or two pieces. But I think that's a relatively strong second 11, to be fair. You know, especially in midfield wise, even though, you know, maybe some concerns off the ball, but technically and on the ball, that midfield can offer you a lot, in my opinion, man. So, yeah, I think all of them, you know, could have claims to be an X or Y. I don't see Trossard getting much minutes centrally, even though I think maybe that might be better suited to him. But I think the main solution, yeah, I think is for me Vieira. You know, ESR, I'm seeing more of a right centre mid personally for me.
Yeah, I just want to quickly come in on that. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a big fact that Vieira and Martinelli have their boys, like them lot are at Rock Boys brunch together, taking pictures with Big Zoma. Like they're boys. They go out to eat with each other, their families and whatnot. They've connected. You know, the assist was beautiful when Martinelli scored. Didn't they run off and celebrate together? We saw the poses after the game as well of them two. Like there's a very clear chemistry and a very close relationship between them two off field. I think Martinelli's been a big part of Vieira settling into England, and yeah, Martinelli will be able to relate as well. He's he's coming young. He was a slight figure. You know, Martinelli's worked on his own durability. He's worked in the gym. He's made himself more resilient and more robust in to cope with this league. So I think those are the things that would also help Vieira. But yeah, I completely agree, man. There's a chemistry, there's a connection, and there's a relationship. And I think some of the Xhaka stuff is like him being slight. I think some of it is overblown because, yeah, I think there are instances where actually Xhaka's not really involved in the mix at all. We don't really rely on Xhaka being involved in build-up. I think sometimes Xhaka's positioning is a bit of a problem for us as well, because we've got especially like on our left hand side we've got Zinchenko, who likes to come inside and play centrally. So we've got like two central players there. We've got like Martinelli, who likes to drift inside, or Trossard on Saturday, who like to drift inside as well. So they're coming into Xhaka's space. So Xhaka sometimes kind of in the middle and in between. It doesn't necessarily look like he knows what to do or when to go. And yeah, I think we can do with a player who's more decisive and who's more comfortable in possession higher up the pitch, to be fair. And one thing I do rely on with Vieira is his final action. I think, like, you know, even before, I mean, Sean, me, you, and Lou done the scouting vids when we had just signed him, or when we was about to sign him, and you know, we went through all the tapes, we went through the film, and we saw his final ball, his final action is brazy. Some of the click passes over the top, brazy. You know, we've seen glimpses of it as well in terms of the games that he has had an impact on so far this season. The movement, the rotations, the combination with Jesus, you know, those final actions. So yeah, man, that's something that I think we'll probably see more of. And again, I think it's just important to contextualize his performances with the team's performances, because he's been brought off the bench sometimes with like 6 minutes to go, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. And it's like, there's not a lot that we can expect from him in those moments. Or we're seeing him in Europa games where we done well. We progressed out of the group stage, but there were a few Europa games where the team didn't play well or where we didn't win. And we're kind of judging his performances, but I'm saying the team didn't play well. Really, I don't want to judge Vieira on when he's playing in the second string. I really want to judge his performances when he's playing with Ødegaard and Martinelli and Jesus and them, man. That's going to tell me a bit more about him, not when he's reliant on Lokonga to find him. Come on, man. Like, he needs Partey, he needs Jorginho to draw them passes in. So yeah, man, that's kind of my thoughts on him, man. That's a really comprehensive answer between all of us, really. It's quite long, but yeah.
Yeah, fair play. Fair play. And I do think, just to add to that as well, I do think ESR will have something to say in these final stages of the season, if he can stay fit, that is. I think that's someone else that can come in and contribute on top of the era. So yeah. J_Stew_94. He says, if we fail to get Rice or Caicedo early doors, who do we move for, and how long do we wait before looking like idiots once again? Boy,
Boy.
that's an interesting one. That's
Boy.
an interesting one. I would say as well, it will be hard, but we should try not to get trapped on, just the players that the club are linked to, right? Because if you believe reports, we were ready to pay Zubimendi's release clause, right, in January. That's not someone who I had actively been looking at, and I'm sure a lot of people would feel the same. I've seen his name come up a few times, people at the account with names, and even on these listeners' questions, people come in with names all the time. We do pieces where I think we've mentioned Kakare, we've mentioned, lots of midfielders before, Kefren Turam and all of these, Quadio Kone and all of these guys. So, I think there's players out there. I think when the issue that I have is that when these reports become public and it's clear that, the club is after these men, I personally would like us to be a bit more decisive when it comes to, paying and paying for players and bidding for players, because it has worked out so far, but I think eventually missing out on your top targets, it's not something that you want to really continue, and eventually you do want to be landing your top guys, really. So yeah, I would like Rice. I would like Caicedo. I can see very vividly how they both would fit into our team, in terms of their winning duels, this, that, and the other. So yeah, I think if we do want them, I think we have to move quickly. I would like us to move quickly to get them wrapped early. No summer tournament this year, so let's get these guys in. Let's get them in for a full preseason, and let's get it cracking.
I think as well, in the case of someone like Rice, like there is now the ever increasing possibility of West Ham going down, and I didn't actually consider that before, and to be fair, I still think their team is. Bearing in mind they finished the last few seasons they've been like 6th, 7th, so I don't even know why they're where they are, but whatever, that's for West Ham Gooners, West Ham Fracas, or whatever they're gonna call themselves. But yeah, like I'm with you. I would definitely would like Declan Rice. I could see how he fits in as both as an option as a 6 and an 8, because of his ability to win duels, win the ball, but also carry the ball, which we don't have many midfielders that can do that within the current setup and the current profile. So yeah, man, Edu, sign a player and complete it and pay the right fee, challenge and get it done. Do you know what I mean? So, and obviously, I think the biggest threats would have been Chelsea, but they're not going to be in Champions League next season. So, that could be a big plus in our favour, man. So really, it's just down to Edu to solidify the deal. Now, people could argue, like you said, there's no summer tournament, so there's no rush, but you want to get the players want to move, players want their future sorted ASAP, man. So there's, let's go and be doing it, getting it wrapped. Ideally now you're, even if you can't agree personal terms fully, but have an idea in mind of what West Ham want. Do you know what I mean? Coming into the last year of his deal, so yeah, man, I feel like he's going to be characterized by his ability to complete a deal like this because of the amount that he's not been able to complete. So yeah, man. I need him to fix up and really close, whether it's this or Kaiser, whatever deal it is. And like we've spoken about in the group chat, we're close to the end of the squad rebuild now. So we only need a couple pieces, but these couple pieces might cost big money. So I need you to complete these maybe 70-80 million pound deals. I need them done, bro. So yeah, pressure's on.
Yeah.
And can I just add to that, because I do believe we definitely need we need a player in CM, ideally dual function. I think the Jorginho signing changes things a little bit for us, because I think we would have really prioritized a 6 who may be able to be used in 8 sometimes, but really is about an understudy for Partey. I think where we've got able understudy in Jorginho, I think that rules Zubimendi signing out completely, because I think then what you've got is a player that's then too similar to Jorginho, and then where are they all going to play? They can't. I can't see a situation where we move Thomas Partey out of that out of that six and utilize him a bit higher up the pitch. Nor can I see us doing that for Jorginho. So I think it kind of moves away from getting a replacement or deputy as a six, and we're looking at a player who can play primarily as an eight. I think we need a different profile if we do have an eight. Like a Declan Rice is the type of player, but I think it's more Declan Rice, less Caicedo. I know there's similarities between those two players, but I think, yeah, Caicedo is someone that we would have brought in and would have featured more as a disruptor and a DM rather than someone who carries the ball. I know he can do it, but yeah. So I'm looking at Declan Rice definitely as a possibility, and it'll be interesting to see how the West Ham situation unfolds. Kouadio Kone is a player that I really like. Like, he's growing on me more and more. I think he's a ball winner and a ball carrier. Less convinced about his action in the final third, and that's the way that we tend to utilize the left eight. That needs to be important. But in terms of his ability to carry the ball through the thirds, he's someone that looks very. It looks like an exciting prospect for me, and I can see a player of that profile working quite well for us. And I'll be honest with you as well, the third one for me, and this is really like left field, but it's Szoboszlai. Now, Szoboszlai is a player that we were linked with a couple of seasons back. I know that Arteta likes the player. I think he's quite fond of the player. He could play 10. He could play on the flanks. He's playing right now against City, and I think he's actually played a lot this season on the right-hand side. But longer term, I see him as a player who can do a very effective job in the center of the park. Very, very comfortable in possession. He's improved the defensive side of his game. He's got good production higher up. He can create. He can score. He's good at set pieces. He's quite accomplished on both feet as well. And I'm looking at it, it's very, very left field. I don't think there's any kind of, I don't think there are any close chances of this happening at this moment in time. But yeah, if I'm being idealistic and looking at a different option and probably one out of left field, that's someone that I'd the prospect would, I'd entertain that prospect basically. So yeah, but yeah, man, you're right. I don't think we should be married to any links that we've already had, because things change all the time. And like I said, I think the Jorginho signing changes our plans slightly. It's less of an emergency. Bear in mind, we've extended El Neni for a further season. I know it's a goodwill gesture, but that's still a player that's in the squad, so we're going to be occupying him, paying him a wage, whatnot. We've got to factor that in terms of squad base. So yeah, I don't think we'll sign 2 CMs this summer anymore. I think it'll be 1, and probably a right wing and maybe some other defensive work, depending on who else comes or goes.
Yeah, fair play. Sort of linked to this question from _M for F79. He says, which winger forward would you like to see Arsenal go for in summer? My preference is Karim Adeyemi, bags of talent and can play across the front three. I don't really know, man. I can't lie to you. I'm very out of the loop when it comes to these guys these days, man. I watch Arsenal. I watch Premier League. I might watch a Napoli game if Osimhen's playing. Chuck the Champions League on here and there, but I don't know who's out there, man. I just, when I see a name, I'll like to review the tapes and go from there. But yeah, I don't even know when it comes to wingers. Man.
I'm with you. I've actually only been watching Arsenal and Napoli this season. I actually couldn't tell you who else is about. I'm sure, obviously, the club will be doing their due diligence. They should have names. I don't watch much of Adeyemi, to be fair. I'm only seeing man post pictures of pounded yam and F4 on the gram. So cool,
F4 and Gussie, man.
F4
my man's eating portions for 6 people by himself.
He's eating that recovery food on the ground, but the little I've seen of him, I do like.
Very quick.
It does look like it could fit a potential profile. But yeah, it would be nice to have a sort of forward that fits across the profile of the front three. Me personally, I've always liked Lindstrom. But I don't know who else is out there. As long as they can, they can adapt. Bearing in mind how we use our wingers, they're touchline wingers, so people who are comfortable in isolation periods, but maybe someone who can drop in as a false nine as well, which is why Lindstrom would be my shout. But let's see, man. Let's see what names are conjured up with.
Yeah, I
I
might
don't.
think of some content for us to do during the next international break, right? Where
Yeah, man.
everyone puts
Yeah.
forward a name, and then we're going to review the tapes quickly on each of them, and then we'll make
Sounds good.
some decisions. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I don't think Adeyemi is realistic. Bear in mind that he's just signed with Dortmund. He's still coming to terms with the German league. They're using him primarily as a left winger. He can play across the front, but yeah, I think it makes sense for him to bide his time in that league as well. Yeah, I think if he was sensible, he'd stay for another season at least at Dortmund, where he's going to get a lot of regular minutes, a lot of regular football, and kind of work out the system. And yeah, he can't be eating fufu like that in the Premier League. So yeah, man, I don't know about that signing for us just yet. But yeah, man, Kolo Muani for me is one that I think he probably will cost a lot of money, but I think he's absolutely brazy. I think that messes up a thing or two for us, but yeah, I think he's brazy. But then bear in mind as well, we've got Jesus, we've got Eddie and Balogun. We're back next summer as well. So in terms of forward options, it's really just an adequate cover or competition for Saka. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Anything else for me will be a bonus.
Yeah, fair play. So Mr. K Gyamfi, he says, if you could add 3 players from our 10-11 team to our current one, who would they be?
Bruv, this is easy, bro. This is so easy, bro.
Top selections. Van Persie.
Van Persie and Fabregas in immediately, and I can't lie, low key, I might have to put in Jack for nostalgia. It would be either him, but you could put in Nasri, you could put in Rosicky. There's a lot of good players there, boy. That you
Nasri, Rosicky. I'm going RVP, Cesc, and Ramsey.
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing.
I'm gonna go RVP, Cesc, and Rosicky, bro. That's my Cody, bro.
Now, RVP, Cesc, and Nasri, this team is cooking. This team is smoking everything moving.
That's true. It's true. I can't even lie. If you put them three in, everyone is holding smoke. It's free smoke for everybody.
I think Nasri can play that left
Nasri
eight
can play
very
left
nicely.
eight.
You play left eight.
Then you could put Cesc left eight.
Cesc left eight.
You could put Nasri left wing as well.
Nasri left wing. Van Persie up front.
Yeah, it's a sizzle sesh.
Yeah. I can't lie.
Smoking everyone.
That level of quality in the team, everyone is holding smoke, bro. I'll be so confident of going toe to toe with City. I'll be like, say less, bro. We got something for you, man, bro.
I would smoke them. Van Persie was doing a mad thing, scoring goals from Rotterdam. He was shooting from Rotterdam, bro. Down top bins. Like,
RVP false 9 would be so peak, bro.
Come on, in this system, you're mad, man. Cesc just scoring, creating, Saka cooking on the right, Nasri cooking on the left, Jesus. There's so many options.
There's too much talent.
Too much talent. Yeah, so Jagged, actually, Gooner London _ he says the Cronkies give us 200 mil for the summer. Who would you like to see be brought in? So we kind of covered that one a little bit, but I think we're going to do a Patreon on that. Keep your eyes peeled. Obviously, the January window just ended, kind of, so we'll save that one for March international break. So we'll do a transfer Patreon special. So if you're not signed up to the Patreon and you want to review the tapes with us, because that is what the Touchy Gooners are famous for. We review the tapes. We don't just give opinions willy-nilly. So we'll be reviewing the tapes on a few potential transfer targets, maybe some likely ones, some unlikely ones, and just maybe some Hail Mary ones as well. So We'll do that. We'll do that in the international break, just to make sure that you guys still have some Arsenal content to look forward to there. Jagged Ed, he says, when I watch Declan Rice, I'm not moved enough. How much would you be willing to spend on him, and how do you think he'd best be used at Arsenal? And do you think there's been any legends in our Emirates era?
A lot of questions. I would buy Declan Rice. Yes, I've become more convinced the more I watch of him. I think either or, because as an 8, I think he offers ball carrying ability. I think he's got a lot more to show there. As a 6, even if you could say Partey is more progressive, I think the way we invert our fullbacks means there's less pressure on the 6 to be the sole point of ball progression. And we might change up the dynamics. Rodri isn't just there at City for ball progression. He's there to act as a foil. The mid to the other interiors can drop in alongside him, a lot of ball winning, so we can change up the dynamics again. And when we talk about having someone with Bryce's level of athleticism, that maybe covers up for the fact if you wanted to go a bit lighter with maybe 2 technical 8s as well. So it's just about the other possibilities that it opens up as well, man. So yeah, I'd pay 70-75 mil for my man. Now you could argue whether he's worth it, whatever. I can't really be getting into that point. It's about what the player's worth to us and where we are now in the project. What Rice could give us, I think Rice could give us a lot, man. So pay the M's, bro. Pay the M's, and yeah, so 8 or 6, depending on what it is. When we're dominating, which will be most of the time, I'd happily pay him as a 6. But maybe big away games, tough away games, have him as an 8. Another dual winner in there alongside maybe a Partey or whatever. So yeah, man. But yeah, bring him, man. Bring him. Bring Deck. And he's a London boy, man. He's a London boy, so bring him. Let him come join the vibes.
Fair play. And last question from Shaggy P. He's added another one whilst we've been recording, actually. It says, finding someone who can do what Thomas Partey does to the level he does it is going to be impossible. Should Arteta instead look to tweak the style of play when he's missing, instead of trying to keep the same structure, style of play? The lack of athleticism with Xhaka and Jorginho is scary.
Yeah, that's why I said why I think Rice would be a good option, man. Because obviously, even though he doesn't replicate the same dynamics, he's more athletic than pretty much any other midfielder we have, man. So yeah, allows us to change there, man. So yeah,
it's the same with Caicedo as well. Those men can cover ground and chomp at the bit. So yeah. Boy, I think that's it, guys. Seun, Shabs, thank you for joining me. Listeners, thank you for taking your time out to hear us out. We will be back after the Leicester game with a post-match reaction for that Saturday, 3 p.m. Hopefully, we carry on winning ways, and this sort of blip can be well and truly over. So, we'll see you after that game. Peace.
Peace.
Bless.